So, Alex, you've brought us in here just to show us trophy screenshots.
Yes. We've already congratulated you on the platinum, Alex. I don't think you need to show us pictures. Oh my God.
So, here's me earning my first trophy in Monkey King, Hero is Back.
Trophies. People are proud of them. Enough to save reels of screenshots to their PS5 media gallery before showing them off to their pretending to be interested friends.
Looking at your trophy screenshots is a bit like looking back over an old family photo album, isn't it? You know, there are precious memories bound up in these pictures.
And this is when I found the final herb needed for the Serial Material Collector trophy.
Alex, I've got a meeting at 3 o'clock.
Perhaps even more than that, these trophies and their subsequent screenshots are proof of your gaming prowess. Hard evidence you can point to if anyone ever dares question the validity of your claim to Elden Ring mastery.
But what about the time before trophies? When you would do really hard things in games and have nothing to show for it besides that happy, floaty feeling in your stomach.
And what's the point of that? You can't show floaty feelings to anyone. You know, I've beaten loads of really hard bosses on PS1 from the time before trophies, and you're just gonna have to take my word for it.
This is almost exactly like when I beat Ozma in Final Fantasy IX.
So yeah, hello, you've caught me thinking about the 7 hardest PS1 bosses you never even got a trophy for, even though you deserve one.
Our first entry was a toss-up between Emerald and Ruby Weapon in Final Fantasy VII, 2 optional super bosses of comparable impossibleness that only the very bravest and best Final Fantasy players ever defeated.
Got to pick just one for this entry though, so personally I found Emerald Weapon the hardest.
This subterranean menace can be found lurking in the sea between Junon and Costa del Sol, a thalassophobia-inducing expanse of eerie blackness you get to explore in a submarine in the second half of the game. Terrifyingly, Emerald Weapon is never in the same place and can appear out of the gloom at any moment.
The worst example of this was when I was exploring the wreckage of a plane, you know, just foraging for cool secret loot, and I came out and Emerald Weapon was just floating there, waiting.
Anyway, I did beat Emerald Weapon eventually through a combination of repeatedly miming Knights of the Round linked with HP absorb materia and, well, actually just that. But the tragic thing was, I was on my own in my bedroom when I did it.
Not even my sister was home. I actually paused the fight right at the end as Emerald Weapon was dying and waited an entire 2 hours for her to come back, just so someone else could witness Emerald Weapon dying.
You know, there's a trophy now, obviously. You can play Final Fantasy VII on PS4 and PS5, but I did it on PS1. So, with no trophy to show for it, the only way anyone else is ever going to know I beat Emerald Weapon is if I periodically tell random strangers in the street.
I was pairing my final attack materia to the Phoenix summon, because that's the only way you can really survive his airtime storm attack.
Or I guess I could talk about it in a video hopefully thousands of people will watch on YouTube. I did do it, alright!
Next up, it's Guildenstern from Vagrant Story, the final boss of a hardcore turn-based real-time hybrid JRPG with a crafting and combat system so sophisticated you could write an entire book on it.
I did the next best thing a few years ago and made a video about why it's so brilliant that hardly any of you watched, but it's alright, I'm not bitter about it.
Instead, I'm going to talk about what an absolute belter of a boss fight this is. Vagrant Story is like turn-based PS1 Dark Souls, presented with the precision and panache of a graphic novel, and with a story told through wonderfully theatrical, Shakespeare-esque dialogue. It's possible to reach this boss fight without fully understanding the complex clockwork of systems that make up Vagrant Story's combat, in which case there's every chance your attacks will do 0 damage even if they do hit.
That's not to mention the fact that Guildenstern's second form is this winged nightmare that flits all around the battle arena with all the hostile unpredictability of a wasp trying to steal your summer lemonade.
Unless you've meticulously prepared your weapons and their affinities, don't ask, chances are you defeated Guildenstern by patiently chipping 1s and 2s off his health for upwards of 2 hours. A feat that absolutely deserves recognition.
So this goes out to all of you who beat Vagrant Story back in the day and had no one to boast at. I see you, I appreciate you. This is your time. Boast away in the comments.
Entry 3 is from Resident Evil 3 because I feel anyone who took on and defeated Nemesis on PS1 back in 1999 needs their moment.
Now, by defeating Nemesis, I don't just mean you successfully ran away from him all game. I mean you actually beat him every time he appears.
This was the mark of a true Resi master. You know, anyone can beat Nemesis at the end of the game when you've got cutscenes and a railgun on your side, but knocking him down in all the other encounters, especially the early ones, when all you've got at your disposal are basic weapons and your own reflexes.
Now that is hardcore.
You're fighting this deceptively fast, intimidatingly enormous, ultra-aggressive undead Terminator, not to mention your own surging panic. And to make matters worse, you know the sensible thing is just to peg it. Live to run away again another day. It's only your own gamer's pride encouraging you to carry on. And it must be agony for those of you who did this on PS1, watching all these Jill-come-latelys parading around with their Resi 3 remake trophies.
But Rob, don't you think the satisfaction of overcoming a brutal challenge is its own reward? No, I want the trophies.
The fourth entry on our list of the hardest PS1 bosses you deserve a trophy for beating is Sigma from Mega Man X3, a boss I've put in this video at Rosie's request.
Now, Rosie is unfortunately not here at the moment, but she said, and I quote, that Sigma can get in the blooming bin.
And having looked into this fight, I can see why. A nightmare of leaps, fireballs and shield throws, who then has the temerity to assume a second form consisting of giant mech armor, rockets and a laser attack that fills up 1/4 of the entire screen. The kind of amazing things we like to remember fondly from childhood spent watching gamers who were better than us in arcades, when the reality of actually besting them was somewhat different.
This is one of those fights I've now researched and watched, and I'm happy to say will never do.
The toughest thing here is discerning the pattern of his unpredictable projectile attacks, which is another way of saying there isn't really a pattern. You know, bosses that initially look nails can often be overcome by learning their moveset to the point where it feels like you can physically predict exactly what they're going to do and when. Whereas Sigma bullies you into using your actual reflexes.
The audacity.
In his second form, his attacks are slower but way more powerful. Everything you throw at this boss feels like it's immediately thrown back in your face twice as hard. So you know what? And I don't say this lightly, Rosie is right. Sigma can get in the bin.
I'm pretending this apple is Sigma. Get in the bin, Sigma!
Oh. Entry number 5 is one of the most famous boss fights of all time, to the extent that something so crass as introducing it seems completely inane.
Now, it's 2025. Everyone, by now, knows how to beat... Even Dave knows how to beat Psycho Mantis. What? Even my mum knows.
What?
But you have to remember that back in the 90s, on PS1, the whole put the controller in port 2 thing wasn't common knowledge.
Now, there's no point in me apologising for the amount of times I talk about Psycho Mantis in these Friday features, because I'm not really sorry, and I will keep doing it. But for this video, I really want to try and remember what it was like when Metal Gear Solid first came out. We're pre-YouTube, pre-social media, pre-the internet as we know it. The way we learned about, discussed and formed opinions on video games was so radically different, an irrepressible fizz of playground word of mouth, resulting in my entire school boiling with Metal Gear chatter. Questions, arguments and fan theories spilled outside of break times into excitable classroom room whispers, "Have you fought Psycho Mantis yet?" someone would ask. "He's impossible to beat," another would answer. "He can literally read your mind. The director is an eccentric genius who's made a game you can never finish." I was one of the first people in my school to complete the game, admittedly having been told the controller port trick by someone else, which meant I would consistently get phone calls from friends asking how the heck to beat Psycho Mantis. You know, I was sort of proud of my status as unofficial Metal Gear guru.
Oh, another customer. Hello, Rob's Video Game Boss Helpline.
Oh, hi there. Yeah, do you have any tips for beating the Tower Knight in Demon's Souls?
I haven't actually beaten the Tower Knight in Demon's.
And I would be reluctant to just outright tell anyone how to do it. A bit like when you repeatedly phone Campbell for advice in the game and he feeds you a string of hints and suggestions before eventually handing you the solution out of exasperation. Because it's not the actual dodging and hitting Psycho Mantis that's hard. It's working out how you actually get to the bit where you can do the dodging and hitting. I reckon Hideo Kojima's intention was that we'd all figure out the solution by thinking creatively. You know, he'd already laid the groundwork for puzzle solutions slipping into the real world with the hunt for Meryl's codec number, and in that respect, Psycho Mantis is tough as heck.
And he's terrifying. The music, Meryl acting all strange, the game feeling as though it's breaking in front of your eyes.
It comes together to create something that can't really be pinned down by a term like boss fight. Psycho Mantis is a cultural moment.
It's an all-timer. If you won this boss fight without phoning Campbell or Rob's Video Game Boss Helpline, then well done you.
Our penultimate entry is the star of all my nightmares when I was 11, not counting the one where I was chased naked through my school by a fish trying to force-feed me baked beans. The final boss of Tekken 2, Devil.
I mean, Kazuya's pretty tough in Stage 9, and now in Stage 10 you have to fight Kazuya with wings and laser beams coming out of his eyes.
He's just an absolute menace, okay? He can laser you standing up. He can fly and do the lasers. The lasers are near impossible to anticipate, block or dodge. The lasers do loads of damage. For months, the only way I ever beat him was to use lore and spam that double backwards spin kick move using circle and X. Shameful button bashing, yes, but it was all I had. He was so hard. You know, I'm struggling to articulate just how long I spent trying to beat this guy.
The difficulty with these videos sometimes is that, you know, there are only a certain number of ways that I can continue to say, this is a hard thing. And even then, words aren't always enough to convey the true feeling of what it's like to play one of these video games, which is why, for the remainder of this entry, I've decided to express myself via the medium of spontaneous whistle. Bayek unlocked.
Our final entry, Space Mama from Rayman, is widely regarded as one of the toughest boss fights of the entire PS1 generation. Although, when you first encounter her, your reaction is less likely to be how the heck do I beat this boss than what the heck is going on.
What's going on is you're fighting a blonde woman in a space helmet, riding a flying washing machine and shooting lasers at you from a rolling pin.
Which might sound funny to those of you unfamiliar with Space Mama, but give this fight a go and watch the smile get wiped off your face. Dodging the rolling pin lasers is one thing, but it's when she starts spinning all over the place launching pressure cookers at you that things start to unravel. You know, we've played this as kids, somehow. I'm nearly 40, in the phase of my life where kitchen appliances excite me more than they ever have. But these pots and pans are raining down faster than I can even look at them, let alone dodge.
It's one of those bosses where basically you just have to keep trying until that one time where you just win.
Rayman's quaking idle animation says it all. The strategy here is dodge, 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 hope, hide, dodge, 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 hope a little bit more, and then, when you're feeling brave, give Space Mama a little bop in the face. Do this enough times while avoiding the washing machine, and maybe you'll be victorious. It is so hard. And I feel like if you defeated Space Mama back on PS1, or any of the bosses in this video, then you deserve a little something to show for your efforts. Which is why I've cooked up this very special award, a link to which I'm going to put in the description.
You deserve it. The official PlayStation Access Certificate of Achievement, signed by me, earned by you, hopefully also printed out, framed and forever cherished by you.
Please do print it out, write your name on it, stick it on your fridge or your mantelpiece, and send me a picture on social media. That would make me very happy. So there you have it, 7 of the hardest PS1 bosses you deserve a trophy for beating. But at least you've got a certificate now. Give us a like if you've enjoyed the video. Let us know in the comments if you struggled with these bosses back in the day, or if you can think of any others we've missed. And join us again at the same time next week for another Friday feature. Thanks for watching.
PlayStation